Avengers! Assemble.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Excelsior, your multiversal hero pod. My name is Christian Buckley. I'm your director. Joining me, as always, the Apex legend, Jack Martin.
Excelsior. How you doing, Christian?
I'm doing just fine. It got cold this week.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
You know, man, I don't know. They just said, we're going to reach the boiling point a decade sooner than we thought. I don't know. You know, that's the reason behind everything, isn't it?
Yeah, things are shaping up nicely.
Yeah.
Climate-wise.
But you know what we have in the meantime? We got that Spider-Man 2. So, really, everything's fine, you know?
Has there ever been a bad Spider-Man 2? I don't think so.
Depending on... Well, are you talking, Spider-Man 2 title?
Just Spider-Man 2. And we got, of course, the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But, Spider-Man 2, the movie, and the video game, pretty excellent. There was Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. I never played it.
See,
I don't think it was bad.
That's where my mind went immediately. Because I was like, depending on who you ask, Far From Home. But then I was like, well, specifically Spider-Man 2. I never played that PS1 game, so who knows?
I don't either. I'm going to say it's okay.
It's probably not as good as Spider-Man, though, right?
No.
Yeah. How are you?
I am doing well. Been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, as I imagine you have as well.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful video game right there.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I did the first mission where you get the 4 little quest markers. I did one of those. And I kind of want to do some more of that.
Yeah.
Because I feel a little aimless at points. And I'm like, I need some structure in my video games, so I'm going to do that. And then get lost along the way. Really like doing the shrines as well. So
nice.
That's what I'm up to.
I did some of the towers. I wanted those 4 things that you're talking about. I really wanted that in the last Zelda game, but I haven't done them yet. Instead, I went to a village in the southeast, and I helped participate in a local election.
Oh, great.
So that was very fun. But yeah, great year for games, and Spider-Man 2 is the topic of conversation today for the pod, because 6 days from now, as we're recording, May 18th, we will be getting the PlayStation Showcase 2023, where we will get, most likely, a deep, in-depth look at Spider-Man 2 for the PS5. We're going to talk about that in just a bit, but first, let's crack open Fury's report with a little headline. Jack, we got some MCU updates for the holiday season of this year. We know the Marvels will be hitting in November. We know not much beyond that officially, but now we know Loki will be premiering in October, and all of the episodes of Echo will be dropping binge model style. I believe November is the month for that.
That's correct.
So, slight delay on Loki. That was initially supposed to be... I mean, we were talking about it before. You assumed it was going to be May, June, like the original season. And then the talk was late summer. I think July was something at one point. But, yeah, that is an October joint now. We got the hazy vibes of the TVA for Halloween season.
Yeah, I honestly think that is a really good time for that to come out. It's a little spooky. The first season was a little, psychologically, whoa, what's going on here? So, good timing, I feel. October, very nice for Loki.
Yeah. We'll nowhere near be able to live up to Werewolf by Night October synergy, though.
No. That was... Man, I gotta watch that again. Yeah. I might just add that to the old yearly October watch fest because it's real good. But man, that was fantastic.
The great thing, it was only 45, 50 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Then yeah, that's an October staple at this point.
Sure.
But yeah, Loki. it can work. I'm sure the marketing will have some fun stuff with the holidays. But Echo is interesting because Echo is going to be the first MCU show, I believe, at least live action. I don't know how some of the animated stuff has gone across the board, but doing the binge model all at once, every episode. How do you feel about that?
So, for me personally, love this because I don't think Echo is going to be one of the premier MCU projects coming out of this. And I like the idea of just having a show to watch all at once, especially with a lot of the Disney Plus shows in the MCU. They all kind of feel like elongated movies anyways, so just drop them all at once. Let me binge it. That'll be great. I think it's a good idea to have this as a test in a sense. And I honestly feel like for a show like that, it would probably get better reviews rather than being, like I said, elongated, 6 to 8 weeks or however long it takes. Just have it all at once. I think that's a solid plan. I know a lot of people have been disappointed with this, kind of saying that this is Disney Plus, like not believing in their product and just dropping it all at once and forgetting about it. But, as a consumer of television, I'm at the point now where a lot of shows I like having all at once. And I think this would fall under that category that I would not necessarily want to follow along week by week. So I'm kind of glad. But what about you?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think I prefer weekly TV, but just due to how some of the Marvel shows are structured, the binge model makes a lot more sense in terms of there are some episodes where it is just set up, and I know there's plenty of TV shows that do that, but a lot of the TV shows that do that are doing it from a television first perspective, not from a we need to fit into a cinematic universe perspective first, with characters you've seen in movies before, and figuring out how they behave in this elongated form, right? So having a drop all at once, I think, will allow the reception to be more forgiving of any lulls where we've seen time and time again, even shows that had a huge character, because Echo is a lesser known character across the board. You've seen shows with larger characters kind of falter because of the pacing, episodes, all these things. The same complaints people throw at pretty much every MCU show, where introducing us on a deeper level, because I know there was the connection with Hawkeye, to a new character, I think doing all at once is a good move. And I kind of wish some of the other shows that we did have the last year and a half did the same thing. I think there was something to... Well, I'll go with this one first. I think Moon Knight should have done that. I think Moon Knight, I would have way less issues with that show if they dropped all the episodes at once.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many of the Disney Plus MCU shows that probably would benefit from this type of model. I think She-Hulk is a really great example of a show that should be week by week, and they use that very well. But a show like Falcon and the Winter Soldier probably could have benefited from being dropped all at once.
Yeah.
I don't. That is like the typical show that feels like they took a movie and just made it into 6 or 8 episodes of a TV show. Kind of same with Hawkeye, in my opinion. So, yeah, I hope this is more so a test to see what works rather than Disney just going, we don't necessarily want to keep this going, especially at a pretty peak time for TV, throughout November, into December, when a lot more people are going to be at home for the holidays and all that. So I'm curious to see if they're some shows going forward are just going to be dropped all at once. Some are going to be the week by week, demand your attention, premiere television shows. I kind of hope they do that. Kind of hope they use this as a test. Shows even The Mandalorian, I feel like, man, this point, I kind of would love to see that drop all at once. So maybe this would be better for Disney Plus in general, where you got shows like Andor, which is certainly a week by week show,
Mm-hmm.
and then like some lesser shows could be dropped weekly, or excuse me, dropped all at once.
Yeah, and I was originally going to go, before I said Moon Knight, what I was going to say was Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but like I think that show did have a bump of like the post WandaVision buzz, where WandaVision worked really well weekly, and it was sort of coasting off that high, of like, wow, this is a really cool format, and then the stuff with John Walker and like the suspense they had in the first half of that show. But I'm with you. And I think something like Secret Invasion, which we have coming up in a matter of weeks, is another one where it's like, okay, espionage, suspense, Andor, I'm not going to say it's going to reach the highs of Andor, but, like the same genre on a broad stroke. That works well week to week because you have constant stakes, ideally. You have a slow burn, rising tension, and that lends itself to good week to week TV. Where some of those other ones are like, yeah, they're long movies, So I hope you're right. I hope that this is let's try this, see how it goes. Because I'd be happy if they started doing this for more things down the pipe.
I agree. Does this give you more or less confidence in the quality of the show? Or does it not even move the needle for you?
It doesn't change anything for me at all. I think that
That's
people
good.
who are reading into this as like a doom and gloom thing they wanted this show to be bad is the vibe I'm getting.
Right. Yeah, this doesn't really do anything to me in saying one way or another. If they really didn't care for the show, they would just cancel it, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think this makes me think it's going to be a horrible show or a fantastic show. I think it's just a matter of scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
honestly, like I feel like a lot of people do like the drop all at once model that has been so regular at this point. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to like this.
we are absolutely in the minority on enjoying, like, preferring TV that plays to the fact that it is releasing weekly,
Yeah. I'm at the point now though where a show really needs to demand my attention and earn
Sure.
its weekly format. Like something like The Last of Us or Andor, where I like having that conversation last multiple weeks. Even something like Stranger Things I would like weekly, but it's
I would too.
great to binge it, I suppose. But it for a show like The Bad Batch, for instance, man, I don't want to come back to that week by week. Let me
I
just
don't either.
just
I
get
stopped.
rid of that thing.
I stopped doing
Yeah.
that. I watched them all.
Yeah, that's one of those shows where season 2 had a lot of great episodes, but you really had to dig through so many weeks of just fluff to get to the gold there, and yeah, I can't really deal with that anymore. I like a lot of shows. Some of those shows like just need to drop all at once because, like we were talking about, I feel like the negativity from those shows is a lot of it is waiting week by week to be like, oh great, we have a little side quest adventure that I waited a whole week to see. That would be completely, null and void if you just have 20 minutes of time. Be like, you know what, I'll get through it and get to the next one. So maybe that'll help with this show.
Mm-hmm. And here's a novel idea. What if, instead of the priority being we have a destination we have to hype up, what if it was just like well-written character drama? Like what if that was the end goal?
That'd be fantastic.
It would be really cool. But they can't all be Andor,
No.
But there was one other. Oh, speaking of well-written character drama, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is on Disney Plus now.
Oh boy, you got some catching up to do.
I do.
How many MCU projects are you in the hole for?
Too many. I still have to watch Wakanda Forever. It's 3 hours. I know I can watch it at home. All right, I have to now. But like, that's 3 hours of Zelda. That's like I could split it up, but I hate doing that, you know?
Yeah, no.
I don't want to reach that point. I'm only 26. I don't want to reach that point where I'm like, I'll watch half of this 3-hour movie tonight and half next week. Like, no.
Yeah, no.
Maybe when I'm like 50. I don't know, man.
That one, and it's like good.
Yeah, I'm sure
right.
it's very good. It's just like the idea of like sitting down, dedicating a night to that, just for the sake of being caught up, you know.
That one does feel like a dedication thing. I don't love that movie. I think it's mostly good. But man, it is very long. But dude, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium, like, ugh. There is no amount of motivation I could have to see that again.
Maybe I watch that first, and then I use Wakanda Forever as a palate cleanser.
Sure, that's probably a good idea.
Because I doubt they connect at all.
I don't think they do whatsoever.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, that's your update. Also, Avatar: The Way of Water coming out on Disney Plus very soon as well. And while you're at it, Mario movie also on streaming or on demand. I don't know if it's on like a streaming service, but
yeah,
you rent it.
That's a movie I need to see.
Yeah, it's a brisk 90 minutes too.
Oh, I'm all about that.
Yeah, like it flies, it zooms. I thought it was a Sonic movie with how fast it went by. I'm sorry about that. Let's move on to video games, though. Speaking of Mario and Sonic, you know who I think of after those two, Jack?
Who's that?
Spider-Man.
Wow. I mean, he's a great video game character.
He is. Some would say he is the face of PlayStation these days.
Probably. Yeah.
I would say that, personally.
I think he kind of is.
Yeah, man. Who else is there?
Him and Ellie and Aloy. And Jin.
Yeah. But even then, it's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
you know?
right. There's a certain level of fame that one character has over the rest of them, for sure.
Yes, which, like, is it unfair? Maybe, but it doesn't change the fact. It's like Spider-Man is selling consoles. Spider-Man's face is on all these PlayStation billboards. Like
the numbers this game's gonna do, I'm very curious. Very curious about.
Yeah, me too. Because video metrics always really good for these Insomniac Spider-Man games. And next week we will have the PlayStation Showcase, the first one since fall 2021, which I believe is where we got the reveal of Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac, and that was the last time we've seen that game. We really even haven't seen it. We just saw the pre-rendered sequence of Peter with the Iron Spider mechanical legs and Miles and the Venom in the hallway or alley. That's it. That's all that exists for this game that we've seen. That one screenshot, that trailer, and now a comic book. So,
can you believe it's been 2 years and we've seen nothing practically of that game? That's like the opposite of Spider-Man 1. We had seen so much of that game.
Yeah.
Since like 2016, leading up to 2018.
Yeah. We saw that annually. We saw like 10 minutes of that thing annually. We saw basically the entire game in terms of like the set pieces. But that is most likely going to be the headliner of the PlayStation Showcase next week. Do you agree?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the game that's coming up next for them most prominently.
Yeah. Now, do you think that this is going to be like opener, closer, middle of the show, let's settle in with some Spidey? Where are you expecting this to fall?
I don't see it closing the show.
Yeah.
Because I think they close the show with like a surprise.
Me too.
So I could see this being like the second to last thing before they're like, you know what, we're going to leave you with one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could see it opening. Just anywhere but last, personally.
It's funny you say that because I think back to the reveal trailer, right? And Spider-Man, I believe, was the second to last thing they showed in 2016 at that E3. And I believe the follow-up, they ended on gameplay for Days Gone.
Oh boy.
So
Hey,
that was a
could be
different
another
time.
Sony Bend trailer at the
Yeah,
end of this one. It's been a while.
that's true. That's very true. I'm kind of expecting them to show up, but Spider-Man, regardless, is going to take up at least 10 minutes, probably 10 to 15, maybe. It's like an hour-long show, a little over an hour, they said. So,
Yeah.
what do you want to see? What are you expecting to see out of Spider-Man? Like, do you think we get some talking heads? Do you think we get a gameplay demo with some voiceover? You think it's just here's the game? What are you expecting? What are you hoping to see for Spider-Man 2 next week?
I mean, at a baseline, just gameplay, and I think it would be similar to the rooftop gameplay that we got for the original Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you say talking heads, like, kind of makes me think of the band. No, kind of makes me think of the Suicide Squad showcase from a few months ago.
Oh,
Remember how that game was canceled?
wow, yeah.
But what they did there was show off the game and then afterwards have like a brief message from the devs. And I could see that. They tend to do that for PlayStation. I think the last showcase they had people come on talking about, I forget which game, but someone was coming on. I think they talked about Horizon actually. Last time they had someone come on, like, sort of do a talking head about the game. I think at that point they talked about the release date had changed, things like that. So I could see them doing that, like showing off the gameplay and then being like, with Spider-Man 2, we have all these new mechanics, like changing characters between Miles and Peter at the drop of a hat, or these new gadgets that Peter can use, or these new Venom abilities that Miles can use. So I think that's certainly possible.
Yeah, that's the main thing I'm curious about. I'm still on the fence of if I even want to watch the Spider-Man sequence, because as you mentioned earlier about how much we saw of the original game, right? Like, I do feel that was kind of detrimental to my feelings on the story of the game, outside of the fact that in the first 2 minutes you're like, oh, this is where the story's going, you know? Um, so I'm curious to see how they position it this time. I'm definitely focused on, okay, mechanically, what are you doing for like combat in this game? What are you doing to build it up? Because I do think Miles Morales was a sizable step up in terms of combat for me personally, with the Insomniac Spider-Man games, where I think combat in Spider-Man 2018 is good. It's very heavily Arkham inspired, with some like Ratchet and Clank DNA in there, but it's good. Miles, though, I really did prefer the versatility he had and the Venom abilities he had. So I want to see if they work any of that complexity into Peter outside of just like shortcuts with gadgets. Like, are these legs going to be just essential to how he plays and how he feels in combat now, to give him some parity to Miles with the Venom abilities? Like, that's my big question. I really hope they lean into that. As far as like story goes, though, I really don't need to see much. I kind of hope it is similar to what you said with the rooftop demo of like, I don't know, who's some like C-list Marvel villain. Like, Hydro Man is stealing a bank. Peter and Miles gotta work together to take him down, chase him down, beat him up. And that's 10 minutes. That's my hope.
Did you ever go to Universal?
I have not.
The Spider-Man ride there, I don't know if that's still there. I hope it is. I'm sure it's
think it
very
is.
that's great. That's actually really great to hear if it is. It's very outdated, I'm sure, visually. But I went on there and Hydro Man is like one of the villains involved in there. So that'd be cool to see. I'd be
fun.
all about that.
But like, something that's inconsequential to everything else. Like, I don't need to see Venom. I definitely don't need to see the Green Goblin if he's in this. Like,
That's the thing, though. I feel like Venom will be the end, like, tease. You know how, like, at the end of the rooftop demo is Mr. Negative?
yeah.
I think we'll do that with Venom. Just because you got to have a hype moment like that. Honestly, though,
Yeah.
or Green Goblin. I feel like you have to end with something very hype. So
I think you're right, but man, if they show Green Goblin in this, I'm gonna be so mad. Cause like we know what's coming, and you've already like played the Venom card, so like lean into that if you need a hype moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I don't need teases of when Norman gets the mask. Like, um, I would prefer if they did have to do Venom. I still hope they kind of like don't really confirm or deny if it's Harry or Eddie. Like, don't have like Venom unmask and then Spider-Man's like Harry Osborn the way
Sure.
that like because you reminded me of when they show Mr. Negative and Peter's like Martin Lee. So like nobody knows who Mr. Negative is, and we pick up the game, we see Martin Lee, this friendly guy working with Aunt May. You're like, oh, so he's the other bad guy. Okay, great.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
So that's my main concern. But I am excited to see this game. Like, I want to see Miles. I want to see a potential tag team system. Do you think they'll actually go in on that?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Arkham, like especially with the Arkham Knight stuff, switching between like doing the double team takedowns or whatever. That's almost a lock for that to be in this game. I've been saying for a while I really want that GTA style. You're on one side of Manhattan, the other person on the other. You hit down on the D-pad, you zoom out, you zoom back into the other character. Or you're swinging around as one character, then you see the other one swing by and be like, hey, you want to go get some pizza? Or do you want to go fight crime? And you like accept that little buddy mission or whatever. That'd be so cool. Or you get maybe that GTA 4 Roman colony to go bowling, except Peter's colony to fight crime. That'd be cool. I want like the open world in Spider-Man is mostly just a venue and a playground for you to get from point A to point B. It's not very like it's not super interactive. Yeah. I think it'd be cool if they add elements like that to make it a little bit more dynamic, and they showcase that next week. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree there, and I'm curious to like we're both planning on doing the Spider-Man games leading up to this, so like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of this conversation there, but like yeah, side quests I would really love to see fleshed out here besides the ones from 1 and Miles, which are like there's the random crimes, there's the combat challenges, there's the chase the drone or the birds or whatever. I would love to see them get a little weird with it, like Spider-Man games on the PS2 side quest weird of like Mary Jane is gonna be late, swing her through the city, or like deliver this pizza as Peter.
But don't flip around too much.
Yeah, like something like that. They don't have to go that absurd with it, but just shooting some personality into the open world with the side quests. I would definitely love to see that too.
Yeah, that's the thing I think is missing from those games, where it just kind of feels like a Ubisoft checklist open world.
Yeah.
Which is fine because it's fun to just traverse the world as Spider-Man, and all those things that you can do take so quick are just like so easy to do that it doesn't feel overwhelming. But it would be nice to have like a really fleshed out world. And I do think like with this being a next gen only PS5 game, that I would hope, similar to how Tears of the Kingdom uses Breath of the Wild's map but expands upon it in interesting ways, I feel like the density of the city would be a lot more intense in this game. Maybe like the pedestrians, like the attention to detail will just be a lot more upscaled since 2018's like PS4 version. So that's kind of my hope there.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you brought that up. That's the next thing I was going to ask you of like, how do you want this game to show off that it's next gen? Because this is, believe it or not, one of the first like huge, this is PS5 only era games. Like we did have Ratchet and Clank from Insomniac, Returnal, but those are much more like focused games. This is an open world, right? So how do they deliver on that? I think what you're bringing up with the making New York feel a little more alive is definitely a possibility. One that I think is preferred. I don't think they're going to redesign Manhattan. But there's a couple avenues that could go for scope. There's expanding into the boroughs, like you could get Brooklyn, Queens. You could get a little wacky with it and go multiverse. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm definitely curious to see what they do to show off. Like, this is next gen. Besides, like, there's race tracing and there's more particles on screen and more people.
Yeah, I have not felt that any game so far has felt particularly next gen. Like, really, that leap to the next console.
I agree.
So I hope this is the one, dude. I was playing Jedi Survivor and I had to wait for the bar to load. That was like, have you encountered that?
No, I don't think so.
Dude, trying to get into the saloon on Kobo, like the main sort of hideout. It's like so many times, like I wait at the door and it's like loading, and you see like the yellow bar above the door. At first, I was like, "What's going on here?" And then I was like, "Oh my god, this game is loading. It's 2023 and this game is loading. What is going on?" I felt, oh man, that was really disappointing. That was like kind of a no-no playing that game. I could not believe that.
See, as much as I would love Spider-Man to be like the showpiece, that's like, we're really in it now, I don't think it will be, because what we're talking about, this is a game that's built off of bones that were created for the PS4. Unless they get like super out there with it and like actually do multiverse, and it's like there's 3 levels of New York you can hop between at all times and they're all running consistent. Like, unless they do that, I'm sure it'll look very nice. But like, my expectation is, imagine if Jedi Survivor was polished. That's probably the experience we're going to have with Spider-Man. Of like, this looks really great and is so impressive, like visually. But
you think
I don't
there's
know if
going to be
feel next gen.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a 60 frames per second mode?
That's a good question.
I feel like there will be. And I would be disappointed if there wasn't, because it feels so smooth to swing around that city with like a locked 60 frames.
I have been on I think 40 frames is a good middle ground. The 120 hertz mode, and Insomniac is really the only studio that's been doing that. But that is specifically for people who have a monitor who supports it, right? But 40 frames does feel so much smoother than 30, and it's only a 10 frame bump, and it retains, I'm pretty sure, all of the visual fidelity that you lose when you swap to 60, at least in the Spider-Man games. And Ratchet and Insomniac was able to do use the 120 hertz mode to get 40 frames, which feels a lot smoother and keeps up all the ray tracing, 1440 to 4K resolution, like all that stuff. So it's Insomniac, so probably they'll have a 60 frames, but I think for sure they'll have a 120 hertz 40 frames, because nobody else is really doing that in the PlayStation first parties for new stuff. Like Uncharted Remastered had even a 120 FPS mode, but
yeah,
I don't think The Last of Us Factions 2 will have a 120 frames per second mode.
No.
So, we know PlayStation is pushing multiplayer live services. Insomniac, I believe, if you listen to job listings, is making a multiplayer game. Do you think that's in any way tied to Spider-Man 2?
Ooh. I don't know.
Every Spider-Man.
Maybe. I don't think in this game, no. I think it'd be a separate game.
Mm-hmm.
Every studio in PlayStation seems to be working on an additional like multiplayer game. Mm-hmm. Like there's the Horizon game. I don't know if that's being developed by Guerrilla, but like every IP seems to have a multiplayer game attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess in what better way to do that for Spider-Man? I know Pixel Opus got shut down. There was some speculation that they were maybe working on a Spider-Verse game because they were working on a Sony Pictures game. So, but I feel like Spider-Verse is the answer there. If you want to do a multiplayer Spider-Man game, it just has to be Spider-Verse. But I don't think we see that next week.
Let me paint you a picture.
Okay.
We're watching the showcase next week. We're seeing Peter swing through the Manhattan city streets, ray tracing everywhere, thunder, lightning, rain effects. We're dazzled. You know, there's a beam shooting out of the sky that we're chasing, right, to go shut down some mad scientist weather machine. Peter swinging left and right, going as fast as he can. The SSD showing off everything. Ping, top right. Miles has joined the session.
No, please don't.
The two of them team up. They start swinging together. You and your buddy. You perch on a rooftop. You see some goons standing outside of where this building that was taken over is. You both take them down. You climb the building. You get inside the building. Time for stealth. Numbers are popping up. It's Gotham Knights all over again.
Stop describing Gotham Knights. You're giving me flashbacks.
That was the exact sequence.
I know. If we see that, I would be, and it's Spider-Man 2 is that game, I would be supremely disappointed. Like there has been, I got to be honest, if anyone shows that type of a game anymore, it's probably going to be bad. Like has any game released recently where they've done that and been like, you know what, that was a good game? No. It has not happened. Ever, really. If you're showing something like that, it's going to be bad, probably. So don't.
I'm trying to think, because there must be one.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Like maybe Destiny?
Well, Destiny's weird because Destiny's basically an MMO.
Yeah.
Kind of. So like,
it is a little different, but like Gotham Knights, not good.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad delayed for so long after that demo. Yeah. Marvel's Avengers hit or miss, but I guess that's similar to the Destiny situation, I guess. But if you're showing off a game that has co-op elements like that, like you are on a track to release a bad game. Just based off of the history of those types of video games.
Now, if memory serves, Insomniac did make a multiplayer co-op game called Fuse, I think, for the Xbox 360. Is that true?
I don't know. That sounds not familiar to me.
What I might be completely wrong here, but I believe I remember seeing a trailer that was like Insomniac presents Project Overwatch, and then it got renamed to Fuse. This is what my memory is telling me. I'm looking it up right now, but I think it was like a squad-based shooter.
This came out in 2013.
Yeah, published by EA.
Announced as Overstrike before it was rebranded.
Overstrike, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
This would be a great trivia question. This does not look or sound familiar to me whatsoever.
Well, the wild thing is I remember the reveal trailer for when it was Overstrike. It was like super cartoony, and then it got renamed, and then it came out and it looked like this. But my point is, it's been a minute since Insomniac has made a multiplayer game, so maybe they want to. Maybe they want to try that again. I don't know.
I think it's just the PlayStation mandate of, hey, we gotta just see what sticks. There's so many multiplayer games coming out.
You know what sticks, Jack?
Yeah, that's right.
Spider-Man.
Honestly, like it could be cool to have like a stylized, like Fortnite-y sort of Spider-Man multiverse game. But can't be this though. Don't make Spider-Man 2 multiplayer. And I don't think it will be. Like 99% sure it's not going to be multiplayer.
If we're being real, like I don't think this is going to be a co-op game.
No.
Like Peter and Miles. I don't think that's this. But my favorite PlayStation multiplayer game ever, I think, first party exclusive we're talking is Ghost of Tsushima Legends. I think that was a fantastic, like, B-side multiplayer project tied into a really great A-side single player game. So, like, if that Insomniac game is tied into this in some capacity, where single player, just like Ghost of Tsushima, is its own self-contained thing, but we also built this multiplayer thing, another team that we're tying into the main menu, and you can, like, have costume things to unlock across both modes. But, and again, following the Legends footsteps, it's like, pick a class, you got 4 players, you can do missions, and then eventually there's a raid you can do, and that's it. I'd be stoked if that was the case. I think there is a Spider-Man multiplayer thing that's probably being worked on at PlayStation right now. I just don't know if it's tied into this specifically.
Yeah, I like that idea of it being like an ancillary thing and like releasing after the game. Like don't pull the focus away from the main game.
Yeah, and Ghost Legends also eventually got a standalone release, so like they could do that. They could make it free to play. They could make it $10, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm open to it. I think that'd be really cool, and I'd prefer them tackle the Spider-Verse in something like that than this game single player story.
Now, non-Marvel, non-Spider-Man related, any predictions for the PlayStation Showcase?
I think it's going to be a very safe show. I think you're going to be able to predict pretty much everything that could show up there. I think the big surprise might be something from Naughty Dog that's not Factions. I believe they're doing Last of Us Part 3 next, just to like have the final say on that and then move on for good. And maybe that's the closer, just like a cinematic. I think Bend is a safe bet. I don't think we're going to see Ghost 2 as much as that would make me excited. Ghost 2 and Spider-Man 2 were like the reasons I bought a PS5. Death Stranding, I think, is going to slip to Keighley. And Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. That's my expectation for the show. What do you think?
Yeah, that's pretty solid. My like prediction is with the Metal Gear Solid remake, I think David Hayter comes back as Snake. I don't know if he's hinted at that at all, but I feel like he's coming back. Has he talked about anything related to that? I feel like voice actors leak their stuff all the time.
I don't know.
I missed
I mean, I feel like he'd know, though. Well, he's busy. I think he's writing shows. Like, he's got stuff going on. He's just in Snake cameos, you know?
Yeah. I do think he'll come back.
I do too, but how funny would it be if it was Kiefer?
Oh, that would be... I feel so bad for David Hayter if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, David Hayter still owns Solid Snake, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, like, 4 people own Big Boss.
That's true.
But yeah, do you? We'll get back to Marvel in a second. But do you think that Snake Eater remake is going to be like good, or do you think it's going to look like kind of budget? Because like I saw people hyping up that Silent Hill 2 remake. I thought that thing looked bad.
I don't know.
That's on the Konami joint. So
I'm really not familiar with Konami at all. So isn't the studio like Virtuous Studio? Isn't this like their first project?
Virtuous, I think, has been a support. I'll fact check that real quick.
Okay, maybe not then. But I don't know the studio at all, so I can't even speculate. I would hope, given the IP, that they treat it like how Resident Evil has treated their remakes, and it's just like supremely amazing. And with PlayStation backing it, I feel like that gives me a lot of optimism. So I'd hope it'd be like that. My thinking with this is they're just starting at the base timeline, like the base first game in the timeline, And I hope they're just like, you know what? Here's Metal Gear Solid 3, or here's Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. I think they dropped the 3. And they just say Peace Walker and Phantom Pain are like, they're already good. So we're going to move on to Metal Gear after this. And then do Metal Gear 2. And then Metal Gear Solid eventually.
So Virtuous has been a port studio for a long time. Looks like they worked on the Final Fantasy X ports for the PS3 and Vita. They did Batman Return to Arkham, which is a little shaky for me. They did support art on Horizon 1 and 2. They ported Horizon Zero Dawn to Windows. They worked on the Switch port for the Outer Worlds. So yeah, they're mostly a port remastered team. So
we'll see. Last time we heard a port remaster team doing a game, it was Knights of the Old Republic, and that is Vaporware.
Yeah.
So
like, best case scenario, they're like new Legacy Collection, including 4 available on modern consoles. They all have trophies. Oh, yeah. And then I'd be fine. I don't think I need a remake for any of these games. Like, I don't need one, you know?
No.
Just let me play them with trophies.
That's the thing. And they removed them from PlayStation, right? Recently? Or like all digital storefronts, essentially?
Yeah. I mean, they were never really on PlayStation. They were on PS Now before that weird thing happened with the rebrand. But yeah, I don't. They were delisted from Xbox and Steam and digital storefronts. So
that seems suspiciously convenient, given like the rumors of this game coming out. So if they were like, "Hey, you can also buy everything now on modern consoles," sure.
Yeah, dude, if I can start playing Metal Gear Solid 1 with trophy support on my PS5 next week,
that would be something. Metal Gear Solid 4, man. If you can play that like with uncapped frame rate on PS5, oh yeah.
So we'll see. What's the hype level for you with this PlayStation Showcase right now out of 10? Where you at?
I'd say like a solid 8 or 9. It's been a while since we've heard anything from PlayStation. They've been like very cagey within the past 5 years or so. Like they just don't really talk too much to the audience. So I'm excited to see what that got going. How about you?
I'd probably say an 8, maybe a 7.5 if I'm being pessimistic about what's going down here, because there's a lot of stuff to juggle. They got PSVR 2, they got 12 live service games they're working on. So I'm wondering, with the 12 live services in the PSVR, we know Spider-Man's a given, but Insomniac is making another Marvel game. Wolverine. Do you think that has anything here at all?
If it is here, which I think it could be, because I think they're saying like, they were not optimistic. They were hopeful it would be out in 2024. I remember there was that rumor. I don't think that's possible, but they were at least saying that. So it seems like it's very far into development if they're thinking that. I don't think we see gameplay, but I think we see more of a story trailer than we did a couple years ago, which was more of just a tone setter. I think we get a trailer that we have a good sense of what the actual story is. So yeah, I think that's possible.
Insomniac has yet to officially comment. Rumors say fall 2024. Jeff Grubb claims it will either be out late 2024 or potentially 2025. So I think you're right. If it does show here, it's going to be a cinematic story beat. We'll get confirmation of a voice actor. Is it Steve Bloom? Is it not? We'll know. But yeah, I don't think we see this here. I think maybe that could be a Game Awards hit, Yeah. Like once Spider-Man is out. But my hope for that is that it's very different from Spider-Man. Tone aside, just like different type of game. I don't need it to be an open world. I hope it's like tight linear action, you know.
Yeah, I honestly think God of War or Jedi Survivor is like kind of the experiences I think of.
Sure.
Where if they want to have like semi-open sections, sure, but for the most part, those are all like linear experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mind always goes back to Yakuza, because Yakuza is a smaller city that does have like certain story sequences where places are blocked off, but it's like a very dense city, seedy. You can beat people up left and right. Like that's Wolverine, man. You know.
Yeah.
But we will see. We will see how much Marvel shows up. I guess since we've opened up to DC as well lately, do you think we see any DC stuff or any other Marvel projects? Does PlayStation have more than 2 Marvel exclusives?
I don't know about other Marvel stuff. Maybe we see the Wonder Woman game. But again, that seems like a Keeley thing. If he did that at Game Awards, so maybe that's Summer Games Fest. But no, I think if we see those Marvel things, it's just those 2 things.
Yeah, I'd kind of be a little disappointed if another PlayStation studio was tied up with Marvel. As cool as these games are, like, let them do other stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll have all these answers. We'll have thoughts, takes, opinions on what we see from Spider-Man next episode. But until then, Jack, where can the agents of Excelsior find you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Fascinated
nice.
Jack. I don't know about that one yet. It's literally just Twitter, but different. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if we all jump ship, then you can find me there, but I'm not using it until I have to. So, that's that. What about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and TikTok at Chun2D2. You can find the show on youtube.com/joyclicks. Podcast services, just look up Excelsior. Avengers Game Podcast, I'm sure will help because that is the majority of our episodes. You can like, review, share. Takes a quick tap or 2 to express your enjoyment of the show. Help us reach more folks to listen in every week. And of course, like I mentioned, we will be back next week with a recap of the Spider-Man 2 news from the PlayStation Showcase. But until then, Excelsior.